On this week's episode of the Autohaus podcast, there's something different about Corollas in Hawaii. They just build the cars different. What do you think that is? What do you think is different about being in Hawaii, the Hawaii scene? What's different out there?
Oh boy. Oh man.
This is the Autohaus podcast. We have another very special guest, back-to-back guest from Hawaii. Can you say your name and give yourself a short introduction?
Hi, my name's Noel Panganiban. I'm from Hawaii, just like Max, Honolulu, and I'm an A86 owner.
So Noel, after I did the podcast with Max, I think it was your name that came up first. Right after I released the podcast on Monday, someone DM'd me and said, hey, have you ever seen Noel before? His content on YouTube, he was releasing videos pretty regularly, but he stopped recently. So I went ahead and before this, I binged on your YouTube channel.
Oh,
and it looks like your last video was 1 year ago. So where's all the content been?
oh God. Well, I kind of transitioned into civilian life after being in the military for 8 years. But all the content, I actually recorded a whole bunch of footage for me to start amassing, a bunch of videos, but I just never got around to editing any of them. Like I would edit something and then I find it to be, I don't know, not as good as I thought it would have been. And then I just kind of put it in the back burner and I just kind of kept doing the same thing over and over. And then eventually I just stopped making videos altogether.
Oh man, that's really unfortunate. Would you say are you being like too hard on yourself about the content? Is there a particular thing that you're hard on yourself about for not wanting to release content?
Yeah, actually. It just, my standards keeps getting higher and higher. And every time I release a video, I want it to be better than the last. And I know that's kind of impossible sometimes, but it just, I don't know, my standards got way too high for my own good. And yeah, I mean, my wife is just telling me, it doesn't matter what you put out there, people will still watch it regardless. Yeah, she's probably right.
First of all, that's really cool that your wife is on board and she sounds like she's supportive.
Oh, yeah, she is.
And then likewise, I agree. So I probably watched almost every video of yours. I think my favorite one was probably the that like Tiffany colored Starlet with the SR20.
Oh, Julian Starlet. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, watching that video and like sitting back, I was thinking like, this is so cool because for me, it's like this feels authentic. You can tell like the guy shooting it's like really tapped into the culture and we're just doing it to like tell. Similarly, for the podcast for me is like we're just in it for the culture and we're trying to tell people's story and the authenticity of that like really resonated for me in that video.
Oh wow, yeah. That's what I always try to convey to people is the realism of the build. I don't want it to just be about the car. I want it to be about the person as well, and I want to adapt pretty much the person's personality into the video.
Yeah, so I would say don't be so hard on yourself, man. I mean I love the content. I wish I would have found you sooner. People are definitely dying for like authentic content right now. I work with a few companies and a personal brand and we talk about it all the time. There's so much of this like fluff that's going out into social right now where we call it like shooting nothing in 4K, right?
Yeah.
And what we're lacking is like content of real substance. And for me, out of all your videos, that Julian's video, that one really resonated with me. And that's like, I don't know, for me, it's like, when's the last time I seen a video like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So stop being so hard on yourself, man. People love your content. You gotta just release it and get, I think once you start, people start giving you feedback like, oh man, like I'm glad you're releasing videos, or or even constructive feedback like, hey, here's what you can work on. But keep producing content. I think that'll be like one motivation for you.
I'll yeah, I mean, I'll try. I mean, I'm yeah, trying. Just it's just so tough to get back on that horse and knowing. I mean, I'm sure you know how much do you do any of the editings for your videos or anything like that,
Very
or
very few.
very
So
few?
I know, looking at your videos, it looks like editing will is like a big ordeal, just
Yeah,
because how much is involved.
yeah. Well, it's pretty much a one man show. Once in a while, I'd have a friend of mine do some of the shoots, but most of the time, it's all me, and I dread going through I like the end product, putting it up and uploading, very exciting. But just
Hmm.
thinking about the hours of grinding away at editing and then narrating and then writing the scripts, it really makes me not want to do it anymore, honestly.
Do you build Gundam at all?
Do I build Gundams?
Yeah.
No, I tried to get back in, or I tried to do it back in early 2000s. I have a friend who was really big into model building.
Okay.
And I tried my hand at it, but I suck.
The parallel I see with what you're talking about, because I used to be big into building plastic models. It went to the point where like I had so much equipment and I built my kits to such a high level that I would just stop in between because I'd be sick of it, just because it just took that many man hours and this much complexity to get up to my final product that I wanted, right?
Right,
And I
right.
see that with what you're saying now.
Yeah, man. I dread it.
Yeah. So I would say like find a middle ground. I mean, like at least start getting some like minimum viable content out, just so you can like ease your way back into it.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. It's like I built so much time in between that I've been down because
Uh-huh.
the last video I released was this three-part A86 weekend build. And then I had this whole shebang about, like Mad Max and all that. And that was going to be my comeback.
Uh-huh.
And then because I had waited so long to put out another video, and then it's been about almost a year and a half since I put out another video since
Hmm.
then. And I feel like if I just put out something mediocre, yeah, I mean, yeah, people would be kind of upset about that.
No, no one's gonna be upset, man.
Yeah,
Here, why don't we get into some car topics?
yeah,
Hopefully
yeah.
after this podcast we'll get you a little more motivation.
Oh,
So
okay, hopefully.
yeah.
Yeah, let's do
So
that.
Hawaii has this fascination with and this comes in many different words, right? So like Kyusha, classic Japanese, J10. Where do you think Hawaii's fascination with these type of cars and this car culture comes from?
Oh, Max explained that like last podcast. Basically, there is a lot of Asians in Hawaii, and because of that, we love our Toyotas, we love our Japanese cars, and therefore it's carried throughout the generations. Toyotas here sell for big bucks. Anything else is kind of yeah easily bought for a fair price.
When you say Toyota sell for big bucks, specifically like what vintage or like what style of Toyota are you specifically talking about?
I would say anything pre-90s Toyotas would sell for pretty big bucks. And I'm talking about rear-wheel drive stuff, not the front-wheel drive Toyota Corolla or Camrys. I'm talking about like the 86 Corollas, the 70s Corollas. Yeah, just anything old school. And let's not forget the truck guys, Tacomas, Forerunners, they sell for a lot down here.
Speaking of J10 too, that's another thing I want to ask you. So, my ex runner is actually from Hawaii, and I know just from looking afar like that '90s style truck. So like truck with hydraulics in the bed, and you know what I'm talking. I'm sure you know what I'm
Oh,
talking
oh,
about.
mini trucking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff is still like huge in Hawaii. Like like the X runner guys that follow me like are all from Hawaii. So where do you think that Toyota truck, specifically Toyota truck, where do you think that fascination comes from?
Ooh, that's tough. That's not really my foray, but again, the Toyota trucks, they're just workhorses, and it's like your everyday. Yeah, it's the workhorse, and again, a lot of Asians here, a lot of locals, and influenced by the whole Toyota crowd. So you're kind of a product of your environment. So if your buddy out there gets a Toyota, you yourself is gonna get a Toyota, or a bunch of your friends are gonna get a Toyota. But yeah, I'm not too sure about that whole genre over here, the whole off-roading and mini trucking, but it's very popular down here. I don't I don't see much mini trucking, but as far as the off-road guys, the lifted guys, that's you can find that everywhere.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that it's so difficult to be any sort of enthusiast in Hawaii, similar, probably even worse than California. And because like if you got like a lifted Tacoma, the lanes are narrow
Yeah,
from what Max told us. So told on the podcast. So it's like if you got a big truck, it's hard to drive the truck. If you want like a Shakotan style Kyusha car, the roads suck. So that's tough too. You just mentioned it. Classic J-Tins really expensive over there, so it's not attainable for anyone. Or you really gotta want it. So
yeah, it's either you really got to want it, or else you're going to be faced with either the condition. Well, that's another thing. The conditions of the cars you get here, it's really tough to find really good ones without paying a friggin' mortgage on them. Because we're surrounded by ocean, salt water. A lot of rust starts forming very quickly.
yeah, that was really apparent when I bought my truck. Cause so I bought my truck locally. There's a used car dealer that all they do is import Hawaiian cars, and
What?
my truck's a 15. I bought it with like less than 15,000 miles, and like it needed a serpentine belt already because of like apparently like the salt water and stuff. And then like it needs tires because like I don't know what that salt water does, but the tires are like cracked and
They dry
rotting
rot a lot.
already, you know.
Yeah, they dry rot a lot faster down here.
When I saw you made a couple eight videos of 8-6 day, those meets. I noticed you like again from what Max said on the podcast. He said I think in his words, you guys have one of the most per capita amount of AE86 Corollas.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, our island's pretty small. It's yeah, Oahu's a pretty small place with a ton of people. So yeah, he's probably right on to that. There are a lot of 86 owners out here, whether they're broken down in the garage or they're actually daily driving it or garage queens. We definitely do have our fair share.
And then looking at those 8-6 day videos, like besides the Corollas, all the other Kyusha cars there, where are all these cars coming from? Because they can't have all been like original Hawaii cars. Is that right?
A lot of them are original or from Hawaii. From
Oh wow.
from the from the people that I've met and talked to, a lot of them are definitely from Hawaii. Whether they bought it from a guy that's already lived in Hawaii, I'm not sure if that original owner had flew it in, but yeah, most of them are definitely from here.
Wow, that was actually a shock for me. I was imagining that you guys were importing a lot, but yeah, that's
Nah,
that's really shocking to hear that a lot of those cars, or from what it sounds like, majority of those cars are original Hawaii cars.
original Hawaii cars, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. We would actually see there's a lot of nosy people at the ports, and we would actually see cars coming in if they are, old school Japanese or whatnot. Somebody would just snap a picture and it would just kind of go viral locally. I was like, oh no, a skyline's coming in. Yeah, we definitely see that sort of thing. But yeah,
hmm
yeah.
How'd you get your start into AE86 Corolla? Was that your first classic Japanese car?
Uh, let's see. I would say it was my second, unless you want to count my 1987 Toyota Tercel, which is what really got me into the A86 chassis. But yeah,
Uh
um, the A86 was definitely my first, I guess, true JDM retro car.
huh. And what year did you buy your first Corolla? And then tell us that story.
Oh gosh. Let's see. It was in 2005 or maybe 2006. I was, I think I was on the local forums Hawaii. That's very old school. And somebody was selling 1987 Toyota Corolla SR5 5 speed. I remember he posted it for 1100, and then it went down to $800. Now at the time, I didn't really have um, a stable job, and I drove this clunky 1987 Toyota Tercel, which by the way I freaking love. And yeah, I told my girlfriend at the time, I was like, I kind of want to buy this car. And she's like, but you already have a, you already have a another car. I was like, well, yeah. And that kind of started the whole car collection right there by buying that second car, which was a 1987 Toyota Corolla. Um, but yeah, I got it. Bought it for $800. It body wise, it was in really good condition, but mechanically, it was terrible. And at the time, I didn't really know too much about cars, so I was more into like, let's get as much power. Let's try and race this thing. The typical young race car kid.
And it
So
was a SR5, right?
yeah, it was an SR5.
Ah.
But this is the car that I kind of went through the different phases of a Corolla owner. Um, Wanted to get suspension, wanted to get my hands on a GTS donor car with the 4AG. I eventually did. I think a year later, I had found a complete GTS donor, and I swapped it over with the help of a friend within like 2 weeks, and I learned a lot from that experience. And eventually, I started tapping into the supercharged market. So eventually got a AW with a supercharger, and then pulled out that motor and then swapped it into the Corolla. And then, but during this time, I was buying up just weird cars left and right. But yeah, that's the story of my first A86.
I noticed that last three-part video, you're doing a GTS to SR5 swap. Or, I'm sorry, the other way around.
Oh yeah, yeah, SR5 to GTS swap. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The biggest thing for me is that that's not really so feasible in currently in 2020. Like in the Bay Area, that's like an obscenely expensive swap to do to find original GTS stuff. Tell us about that. Doing a GTSR5 in 2020.
Well, first you have to find yourself a donor. And the donor, most of the time, it's gonna be just as expensive. I always tell people whenever they ask me for advice, should I buy an SR5 or should I buy a GTS? And I always ask them, that depends. How good are you at putting two and two together? Because if you buy an SR5, and I'm talking about today's standards, if you buy an SR5, you're going to be paying a lot of money to convert it to GTS, a la carte, versus just buying a GTS straight up. But again, it's nowadays it's really hard to find a GTS donor car, and it's not tough to piece out a GTS yourself, but you're gonna be waiting, especially on island. My only experience is on island, so it's really hard because you can't just drive down to a different state and grab somebody's junky GTS and then bring it
Oh
down to your
yeah.
state. So here it's whatever we have. If a person got out of the scene and they're getting rid of all their stuff, then you'll get lucky and you'll be able to snatch yourself up a GTS. But other than that, it's a rarity to see one in the wild that's just rated for the junkin. it's like there's a lot of vultures down here that's ready to like pick up that 86. But yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. You're either gonna put out some big money, or it's gonna take a while for you to swap over to a GTS. It varies on the degrees of how much you want your car to be a GTS. Because I mean, you can go full blown ghetto and just swap a carved 4AG, and call it a day. But yeah, you're missing a bunch of components like the GTS rear end. Um, actually, that's it. That's really all you need: the rear end, the trans, the drive shaft, and then the ECU and motor. Yeah,
Yeah. Bare minimum GTS
bare
swap.
minimum GTS swap. Yeah, and then you can make your own lines and whatnot.
Similarly, a lot of people who ask me or like look for guidance, like, hey, is it worth getting an SR5 and doing the swap later? I'm on the same boat. Like save up your money and save yourself the time and the headache and find a GTS. Like I'm sure you're on the same page. Like for Corolla, pay the extra money up front and get the cleanest, most complete example you can first.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, but what do you call that? It's fine if you want to go the SR5 route and kind of level yourself up to where you get so familiar with the car, and then you do the GTS swap. I mean, there's a payoff there too, where you have all these experiences with tinkering with the car, um, that by the time you do a GTS swap and things break down, you have the knowledge of fixing that, because along the way you should have learned how to kind of diagnose your own car that you built. So if I mean, I give that option to a lot of people that ask for advice. I think that's also a better route too. So really, it's all up to you what you want to do. Do you want to patiently build up your car, or do you want to just have an awesome car to start off with? Yeah. But either way, it's all going to be big money.
Do you see a lot of younger guys getting into Corollas
Yes. Oh
where
my
where you
God.
are?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
like younger. I'm talking like in the teens, like fresh out of high school.
So I'm not sure what this kid's age is. I think he's in his early 20s, like younger than 25, but he has been asking me about he's been asking me for parts and whatnot. But as far as fresh out of high school, it's one of those things where, yeah, it's cool to have A86, but once you get into trying to buy one and like trying to shop for one, then you're like, oh my God, these things are so expensive. I could buy I don't know, a more reliable beater, like an '05, I don't know, '05 Toyota Corolla, right? And like this will last me forever. But yet, if I buy this '80s Corolla that might not even be reliable, and I'm buying it for twice the price. So these kids want to do it. These out of high school kids, they do want to get into it, but it's that money. It's that cost. What you have to pay for to get into the hobby.
Classic Japanese still cool for the youth, like high school age kids in Hawaii.
That's a good question. I don't know too many young kids nowadays, but man, that's tough. I'm not too sure about that. I'm sure they see it and they're like, "Oh, that's cool." But again, it's out of the question for them because it's a totally different game when it comes to, and most of the younger generation or the younger kids, they're all about that lifestyle of stance at right now. I think they're all
Mm-hmm.
about that whole stance life and just being a show car. They want a car that's already fast, and they just want to make it look cool. And that's,
Okay.
yeah, that's totally fine. But yeah,
So after you said that, I think that is similar with out here in the Bay Area. Is that it seems like the trend for the youth out here is like new, aesthetically outrageous. you know, yeah, it's like having a classic Japanese car is typically not the cool thing that you. It's like, why do you drive that old car? Like, they don't get it.
Like how? What do you mean by old car?
Like they don't understand the culture of like classic cars. They like don't see, how do you say it, like, like the emotion or the work you have to put into the learning experience of having a older or a classic car. I think that's something that's missing from like today's youth out here.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
it might be the same down here too, actually. I mean, motorsports in general down here, it's kind of declining just because we have nowhere to play. The only thing we really look forward to is either meets or shows, and that's honestly all we can do is build our cars for that. And then yeah, so most of the time, yeah, these kids probably wouldn't even want to wrench on their own cars. Yeah, so yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, that's been really curious for me too, because I've had a few of these in automotive school students that have asked me to work, like, I'll pay you to work on my car, and that's
Oh
something like
God.
I don't understand, right? Like at that age, you had to like pull me out of the garage. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, 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 totally. Really, there's people like us that really love to wrench on things, and I totally understand that. Because let's take, for example, something that I don't like to do, and I'd rather have somebody, I'd rather pay somebody to do. For example, like my kitchen sink. Like I can, or like if my disposal is broken, I can go ahead and try and, mess around with it myself. But then there's people out there that actually enjoy, and I can't understand that. The only way I can understand that is by just kind of connecting it with my passion with cars. I enjoy working on cars. Some people hate it. So there's people out there that enjoys, you know, a lot of things, certain things.
Mm,
But yeah, that's the way I see it.
yeah. Two things interesting is that how in Hawaii the environment has changed the culture, where, like you said, because there's no place to do motorsports, the all you can do is show and meet. That's what the cars turn into, right? Like aesthetics only, because that's all you can do.
Yeah, yeah. There's still, I mean, there's a good amount of people that's still built for power. There is some form of underground street racing down here. So yeah, legally there's nothing, but illegally there are still people that tunes for power. But it's such a small group compared, looking at the big picture. It's such a small group, and there are outer island tracks, so they do ship their cars back and forth to do the races. But yeah, for the most part, a lot of people are just doing aesthetics. That's fine. That's totally fine.
So Hawaii does have racetracks still available. Then you just have to ship it to another island. Ship your car to another island.
Yeah, Maui is one of them. I think Big Island one just closed. I'm not sure. They might have one, and I think it was Kauai that might have one too. And compared to Oahu, those islands are small in population, and I don't understand why they get a track but we don't. It never made any sense. But yeah,
It's
they're
a road course or a drag strip.
they're mostly drag strips.
Oh,
I believe
okay,
they're just
okay.
drag strips. I heard Maui had their own little skid pad. I think I might have seen a video of like a big parking lot where they would hold some sort of drift event. But I don't know. That was a while ago. Not sure if that panned out. We actually, it was funny when the track closed down here in '06, something like that. They tried to do drift sessions at the Aloha Stadium parking lot,
Uh huh.
but unfortunately, it's surrounded by a lot of residentials, and I guess their noise levels was too high, and they had to shut them down after one or two events. It was
Oh man.
unfortunate. It was pretty cool though.
Residential. residential housing is seems to be the common thread between why these racetracks are closing down. I can see many parallels in California.
Oh yeah, there's so much people here. There's so much housing. It's hard for you to just escape it. You'd have to go into the boonies to to get away from residential areas. Um, I think the original track where it was a really good spot because it was in the industrials. You know, it was fairly uh, away from all the housings. Again, I don't know why that closed down either. There was some legal issues, or maybe the previous owner didn't want to do it anymore. I don't know too much about that.
Can you talk about your shop, the shop in your YouTube videos?
Oh, yeah, it's the Hickam Auto Skill Center, or AKA the Hobby Shop. And when I was in the military, I had access to it. You basically rent out space like a lift or a flat stall for a fee, and you can rent on your car as long as you want. Well, as long as the shop is open. And yeah, it's only reserved for military, active reserves, veterans. You know, anybody that still owns a CAT card or a military ID. Uh, and there's some people here that can help you out. Um, what's funny though is when I got out in 2017, I was hired the next week. So I quit, or I got out of the military on Friday, and on Monday the following week, I was hired at the hobby shop. So I actually work here now.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's your job at the hobby shop?
Uh, I'm a I'm a mechanic.
So so do you what cars do you work on as the hobby shop mechanic?
Customer cars. We're one of the only hobby shops in the nation that does actual repairs on customer cars. But it varies. We can do like really we basically our bosses don't want us to do anything that'll take more than 2 days. So we
Oh,
want
I
it to just
see,
be
I see.
quick. Yeah, oil changes, suspension, brakes, all those basic necessities. Um, but yeah, it was kind of weird because I'm the only one out of my crew that's not a legitimate mechanic, which is kind of embarrassing. Everybody has their own little ASC certification. I'm like the only one that doesn't have one, but they're like, you know what? It's all right. We can teach you how to be a real mechanic. So legally, I am a mechanic, but mentally, I'm not there yet, or prerequisites or whatnot.
So if you start filming videos again, you can still shoot inside the shop like you used to.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, awesome.
yeah. I could, yeah, I could still use the shop for stuff like that for my own builds. I just got to do it on my days off. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's another big issue in the Bay Area. Probably not as bad as for you guys, or probably you guys have it worse is the space limitation.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so a lot of people don't have a space to work on their car, and there's not really a good, similarly like a hobby shop place available where you can rent a lift, or even just like a lot of these like industrial units do not want automotive anything inside. So that's been a big issue in the Bay Area for enthusiasts.
Yeah, I bet it's very similar here. I see a lot of people wrenching on the side of the road. Um, and it's unfortunate because something like the hobby shop that we have, it I looked into the market, like maybe a civilian can open it up, you know, one for non-military members, but the legalities of it and buying the insurance, it's just insane. Like there's no way you're going to have to jack up the prices for rent use for it to be even a viable source of income. This is crazy because we're charging $4 an hour for a lift.
Oh,
Yeah, and 250 for a flat. And you can rent tools here for free if you rent the bay. So
yeah.
we don't make any money. Luckily we're just a military, facility. So that's the only reason we can get away with stuff like that here. Uh, but seeing a business like this outside, oh my God, that's yeah, you're gonna be paying some big bucks to rent lifts and stalls. I think Ludacris tried to do it in the Fast and the Furious 5 or 6 or something, right? That's what he did with his money, with his stolen money. No, no.
Unfortunately, the Fast and Furious is a work of fiction. So,
Oh, yeah, but I think he tried to open up his own hobby shop. But yeah, anyway.
so what's your current roster of cars right now?
Oh, oh, Jesus. I was hoping you wouldn't ask me this. Just like Noah and his ark, he's got two of every animal. I also have two of every car. Let's start with the oldest. I have two 1977 Toyota Celicas, RA29s, the liftbacks. I have two 1980s Toyota Cressidas, the four-door with the round headlights. I have, oh, Jesus, three A86 Corollas, two AW11s, and then two Scions. And then it's a Toyota Tacoma.
You have two of those XBs?
No, I have a Scion XA and I have a Scion XB. I would love to have another Scion XB though. Let me tell you,
Oh my
those
god.
those cars are great. Oh my God.
What's so great about the XB in your opinion? I'm saying this because I think in one of your videos I saw a lime green XB flat toe a Corolla, and I was like, oh, that's a very Hawaii thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Was it? No, it was my silver XB or silver gray, whatever color it is. And
Hmm.
it's funny, I installed a tow bar on it. It was for back in the day when I was kind of towing my rolling RA29 shell around for restoration. And I just kept that tow bar on, and it's actually been very useful. But the Scion XB, very awesome car. It is like out of all my cars, I don't take care of it. Like I rarely do oil changes. I barely do any maintenance to it. In fact, I had to my mechanic crews. They're the ones that's like, you need to start fixing up your car or your XB. But gas saver, plenty of room. Thing is like reliable as hell, and yeah, that's about it. Reliable, gas efficient, lots of room. I'm almost at like 200,000 miles at this point. And yeah. Oh, easy to work on, I guess.
Say that again.
It's they're easy to work on.
Oh, they're easy to work on.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a Toyota. So I'll last you for a long time.
Yeah. Can you talk about the cost of ownership for guys who are into? I think for any enthusiast in general in Hawaii, like some of the cost of ownership, because I know it's like outrageously expensive out there. Also, they compare it a lot to the Bay Area.
Like the expense of owning a car down here or an old school Japanese car or
Uh,
just in general.
I guess in general, like if you buy a car off the dealer lot, is it more expensive in Hawaii than it would be like if you live in the mainland?
Just based on what my military coworkers had told me prior to, they're like, "Oh, man, I could have bought this at such and such state for much cheaper." So based on that, I think it is a little bit more expensive to buy out here a brand new car off the lot than it is, in some other states. And I believe there's more options in other states and could get them fairly quicker. Yeah. But as far as ownership goes, like the yearly registration, it's ridiculous. Uh, you're paying, I believe it's based on weight of your car. So something like my Scion XB, which is around 2,800 pounds, it costs me around 300 and some change to register every year. So if it were like a Toyota Tacoma, which is far more heavier, it'll be over $400. So just registration alone is it's going to cost you yearly, I would say.
There's got to be a history behind that. Why they do registration by weight.
No idea. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, the government's just or the state's just trying to squeeze as much money as they can, out of whatever." And we used to have a gas tax too, and then now it's switched because cars have become so much efficient. They're like, we need a way to tax the electric cars. So now it's not a gas tax anymore. It's miles per year that you put on your vehicle. It's
Oh
like a
man.
mileage tax. It's like, oh my God, it's bullshit. So I don't know. I really don't know. To me, the state's just trying to squeeze some money out of us poor people.
Are there any other hurdles or expenses to being a classic car enthusiast in Hawaii?
Uh, Shipping, you always got to pay for shipping. Uh, I, like my base Cressida that I bought about 2 years ago. The guy was originally selling it for 4,500, and then he dropped down to $3,500. And I was like, man, that is a great deal. But then you never factor in how much it's going to cost to ship. So there's that. So it's easily $1,000 on top of whatever car that you're going to bring in. So
Are
that
you are you bringing that in from the states, or are you like island to island? You have to ship it.
island to island, it's no problem. Or I think $350 somewhere around there to ship it from island to island. But yeah, I'm talking about out of state. So any parts that you're looking to buy, um, you're going to always have to look at shipping additionally. It's a big thing too. It's not like shipping something from Washington to California. No, it's pretty big, and you always got to factor that in. That's a big hurdle that a lot of us car enthusiasts face. Another thing is the reconstruction permit, which Max touched on. Another crazy thing that we have to do. It's a one-time thing, but every time you modify your vehicle, you always have to go in and have it renewed. So if you put in a lift kit, you're gonna have to get it renewed. Put in bigger wheels, you're gonna have to get it renewed.
Oh god.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
You know, one trend I've been seeing in the Bay Area, like a lot of our cleaner Japanese cars are all getting bought up by people in Hawaii.
Yeah,
Why do you think that is?
because we have we're running out of supplies down here. We're looking at
I'll give you an exact example. So
oh
my friends
Jesus.
at a toy auto clinic, they're another Bay Area shop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They have a they have they had a peanut with a rotary swap in it, a F20 swapped KE, I believe. They had a few of these cars, and he was like, "Yeah, man, all these cars are getting shipped over to Hawaii."
Yeah, again, it's because we're running out of supplies over here. The people that has the supplies, they don't want to give it up. And then, the supplies that we do have are just completely junk nowadays. So yeah, we're buying from the West Coast, um, Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, Texas. Yeah, those aren't West Coast, but yeah, I see those two as well. Um, and another thing is a lot of military members too. They bring in their old school cars, and some of them even they end up selling it down here because yeah, I don't know, they just don't want to take it back, so they end up just leaving it here.
Yeah, I think that was the case with your Conquest, right?
The the Conquest, that was the original Hawaii car, and it was abandoned, and
Oh,
it was placed in the auctions, the military base auctions, and actually, I got a couple of my cars from that military base auctions. But yeah, you're right. A lot of military, when they're in a hurry and they can only take one car, maybe two if they got a wife, for free. Other than that, you have to pay out of pocket to ship your own car off
oh
island
man.
when you PCS. So a lot of them, especially the younger ones that don't care about money, they just leave it. It's insane how much cars they leave on base abandoned, or yeah, it's crazy. our sister shop actually takes care of all the towing on base that goes to the auction lot. So yeah, it's nuts.
I've seen one statistic that there's a high percentage of people who live in Hawaii that are active military. And it seems like this is true considering
Me and
you
Max.
and Max are both military.
Yeah, and my mom was actually military. I'm not originally from Hawaii. I've been here since '95 when my mom got stationed here.
Where are
It's
you originally from?
I was originally from the Philippines from
Oh, wow.
1985 to 1990, 1991. And then from 91 to 95, I was in Washington State. And then we moved down here. And then, yeah, she retired down here. And I've been here ever since. I joined the military and I was, you get PCS wherever. But luckily for me, I got sent back here for another 8 years or 7 years. It's crazy.
Mm.
So,
What is PCS?
I'm sorry. PCS. Wow, I forgot the acronym. It's it's when you get moved around.
Okay.
When it's your time to leave your base, you go to a different base, and you're only allowed to be on base for a few years, depending on your job and what it calls for. Um, oh God, I forgot what PCS stands for. Max help, Max help me. um, I think I saw the percentage of military on Oahu, and it's actually not that much. I think it's, don't quote me, but it's either 20% or less than 10%, like 4%. And you would think because we have so many bases on island, we have one, two, three, four, about five bases in total.
Oh man.
Like you would think more than 10% or so is active duty or National Guard or reserves, but no, it's actually a small percentage.
All right, so we're just about 5 minutes to our 1 hour mark, and I was saving this particular question last because I saw an inkling of it in one of your 8 6 day videos. Can you kind of guess where I'm leading with this?
Oh God, it's been a while since I've seen that video. No.
So the the divide between the new and classic 8 6 chassis.
Oh geez.
How
Yeah.
is that like in Hawaii?
Um.
And I'll tell you some background.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Go for it. Go. Tell me your
so
side.
in one of your 8 6 day videos, I saw it's like, oh, it's 8 6 day, and then you panned over like some of the FRSs, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess you guys can celebrate
Yeah.
too.
Yep. For me, really, it's the FRS is something. It's like it's a new thing to do. Anybody can go out there at the time. Anybody could go out there, buy yourself a BRZ FRS. What is it now? Scion GT 86, something like that, and
Yeah,
anybody can get into the crowd. Now, the folks that has their A86, I know some of them, maybe a lot of them, they're like, no, that is not an A86. You should not be allowed to. It's like an exclusive club for 86 owners. I really don't care. Um, but yeah, anybody can pick up the FRS BRZ, but not everybody could pick up an A86. So that's where the divide is really, and a lot of people don't, qualify the FRS BRZ as an A86. I don't know if
is
that
there
answers your
is
question.
there a genuinely a lot of friction between those
No,
two crowds?
absolutely not. No, no
Absolutely
friction.
not.
Yeah, no
Oh wow.
friction. It's not like one of those where, what do you call that? There's no real beef. It's more like just you're not an 86 owner. Just face it, that 86 is reserved for us A86 owners. Um, but genuinely, there's no hate. I don't see anybody throwing crap at the BRZ FRS owners. Uh, yeah, so there's just that inkling in the back of their minds that are like, you're not true enthusiasts. I think that's just my that's just my opinion. But I've seen no real hate, honestly.
Mm.
It's all just elbow jabs at each other.
Okay, especially out here in Southern California, I know there's a huge divide.
Oh,
Like we used to have 8-6 Fest,
yeah.
like the car show and track event, and I want to say one of the biggest reason that no longer goes on is because that divide was just too big.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wait, what is it like? Did the actual 8-6 owners were like, "There's too many of y'all's. You can't be part of this meet or something like that."
Like um I think for a lot of people in SoCal, the feeling for if you have an AE86 is like, we're like kind of like you said, like we're the real 86 chassis, we're real enthusiasts,
Mhm.
and I think that divide was just like too big, like, and that's part of the reason that we don't have a like 86 Fest car show anymore.
I didn't know that. No, it's really not that bad over here. I mean, you could be um, at an OSI meet and you can see some brand new cars coming in that's like not even old school, and we don't care. But what we try to do is we group them together as best as we can. That's about it. But we don't care if
Okay.
anybody comes in. It's just the car community here is, I wouldn't say it's small, but we're mostly accepting of one another. It doesn't matter, you know. And most people respect that. If they come in with a muscle car, they'll kind of park, on the side, even
Mhm.
though they're here to, to show off their car as well. But yeah, yeah, we don't have that sort of animosity against each other, car clubs and whatnot.
Yeah, I did a podcast with Vitrium GTS. I don't know if you remember him from the Club 4AG days.
No, no, no,
But
no.
he gave one example in Japan. There's definitely not this divide. Like if you see the 8-6 day celebrations in Japan, it's both, the new and the classic chassis. And he said one explanation for it is like so outrageously difficult to be
Uh-huh.
an enthusiast in Japan that both parties understand it, and that's why there's no divide.
Oh, okay. So, hmm, interesting.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting. Even over there, there's still confusion about 8-6. Like you can't like So last year I met the owner of Fujitsubo,
Oh, okay.
and he told me, I asked him like, hey, is there this like is there a like a confusion in terms when you say I have an 8-6? And he said the way they clear up the confusion is when you have the 8-6 Hachiroku is refers to the new chassis. If you have the classic chassis, you have to say AE Hachiroku.
What?
Yeah.
That's that's kind of confusing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, from my viewpoint, like as a being a business owner is hilarious because, well, it's not hilarious. It's also confusing because I had someone cold call me and said like, "Hey, can I get a quote to put headers on my 8-6?" And I asked him, "Oh, okay, is it a SR5 or a GTS?" And then there was like
Brief silence.
this like confusion of like
What?
trying to figure it out, right? And he was like, "No, no, no, I have a 2019." And then when he said that, I was like, "Oh my god, okay."
Oh God. I see. I'm not. I don't know too many FRS owners. I don't know what they are. What I'm sorry. What is the chassis designator for those cars?
So Subaru and Toyota, two different chassis codes, ZC6 and then ZN6, which further adds to the confusion, right?
Yeah, that does. I mean, I understand that A86 is just, there's different one, A85, 80, 88, but why don't I don't know any ZN owners enough to know what they refer to their car as. Either BRZ or FRS, maybe, I don't know, but that would be confusing if they started referring to it as an 86. That would be very confusing to me, who's kind of grown up with this chassis and referring it to that. But yeah, yeah, that's so confusing.
Yeah, I was curious how it was in Hawaii regarding that.
Yeah, no, there's nothing other than name callings and elbow jabs. There's no real divide. Yep, we don't care too much.
Yeah.
We're pretty
So
chill down here.
we'll do one more topic and then we'll go ahead and wrap up the podcast.
Okay, yeah, sure.
On my Instagram post where I announced Max's episode of the podcast, Wes Ongchamp, he's a local NorCal Corolla guy. He said like there's something different about Corollas in Hawaii. They just build the cars different. What do you think that is? What do you think is different about being in Hawaii, the Hawaii scene? What's different out there?
Oh boy. Oh man, I do not speak for the Hawaii A86 community. Unfortunately, I have seen some beautiful builds down here that'll rival anybody in the world. But the way we do things around here, it's I don't know if he's talking about the 86 chassis or the pre 80s Corollas, because the way we do those is a little bit different. But as far as the Hachiroku community, I think we just do it as good as anybody else. There's I think we don't there's really no difference. We just yeah. I'm sorry everybody out there, all the Hawaii 86 owners, but yeah, I think we just do it as good as everybody else.
Talk about pre 80s Corollas because you said you guys do pre 80s Corollas a little bit different.
Yeah. So the pre 80s Corollas, I noticed, they take on the whole hot rod versions, a lot of chrome. The way their stance is, it's more so a drag race look with, I guess, thinner wheels up front, bigger wheels in the back. They run a few American wheels, a lot of chrome, full-on carburetor setups, just little hot rod things here and there. That's one thing I did notice. I guess it's because the way that, man, that's tough. Yeah, that's all I kind of want to talk about. That it's just they have a very hot rod style, like an American hot rod style to these mangoes and peanuts, which I don't see too much people doing out of the state. Yeah.
That's interesting. The more enthusiasts I talk to from Hawaii, the more curious I get. And like I see the shroud lift from this picture of the Hawaii car scene. So I definitely like to get more of you guys on the podcast and we can paint a more whole picture of the Hawaii car scene.
Yeah, there's a couple of people that I would recommend and talking about the car scenes down here, the import car scenes. Again, I'm not a very good representation since I kind of do my own little thing. But yeah, there's a few people that you should definitely talk to.
So yeah, we'll close the podcast here. But yeah, Noel, thank you so much for your time and being on the podcast. It was like such a pleasure to talk to you, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. I hope, man, thank you for what you're doing with the community. There's not a lot of people that does this. Max always talks to me about you, and I'm like, all right, I'll eventually start listening to you. But yeah, man, I appreciate it, and yeah, I hope you do well in your future endeavors.
No, likewise, man. I want to see you start making videos again. Also,
Yeah, we'll see.
the Corolla guys of the world are waiting for you, man. We're
Oh,
waiting for that
God.
good content.
Yeah, I apologize, all you subscribers. Sorry.
All right, cool. So yeah, man. Thank you so much again, and then we'll definitely have you on again. Also,
No problem. Looking forward to it, man. All right.